Hello everybody, this is Zach with Top Deck Nation coming at you today with another deck profile video. US Nationals has come to a close, so we've gotten 2016 out of the way, and that was going to be the format of XY through Fates Collide. Steam Siege is coming out in just a few weeks, so, check your local league if there is a pre-release coming. But today we have a special deck to look at. This is going to be the first place US Nationals Master Division deck. And the person that ended up winning was Nick Robinson, very prominent player, did really well at Fort Wayne Regionals, I think. He's a great guy, definitely deserved to win there. And yeah, we're going to be looking at his list today, and it's going to be a Night March Vespiquen list. Of all decks, of course, the consistency king here, Night March. Very fast deck, very powerful deck. Lots of these low HP, non-EX Pokemon that just hit for massive amount of damage. So we're going to be looking at this deck today. Very interesting card choices. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. So, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Night March. If you're not, let me just kind of walk it through you. You have these low HP attackers here, like Joltik, for example, 30 HP. Looks really frail, right? You have like Pumpkaboo, it's got 60 HP, but what makes this really viable is the fact that it has this attack called Night March. And so as you can see here, this attack does 20 damage times the number of Pokemon in your discard that have the Night March attack. So at first it might be like, 3 energy, the attack could be good, but 3 energy is hard to power up. And these guys have 30, 60 HP. How can it ever really see play? And yeah, going into it, that might be a thought that kind of crosses your mind here. But as you, build this deck and try it out, you'll see that it's very consistent. It can really pour out the damage, and it's really good. So as far as attackers here, we have a bunch of these guys here, and we also have a Vespiquen line. So let me walk it through you. We have Joltik. It's got 30 HP. It's got that Night March attack for a DCE, which we play 4 of. And like I said, it's going to be doing a lot of damage here. So this is one of your primary attackers. We also have Pumpkaboo, as I said, but its 3 attack cost is kind of difficult to pull off. But thankfully, we do play a couple of these Dimension Valley stadiums, and this kind of serves a couple of purposes here. First of all, it says that your Psychic Pokemon's attack costs 1 less, which means that you can now attack with a double colorless energy. And it's also good as a counter stadium. A lot of people play Silent Lab, Rough Seas, Parallel City, so this is good to kind of counter those so you can get your strategy going and kind of put a little bit of pressure on your opponent as well and disrupt them. So essentially, all of these guys can hit for a double colorless energy here. Provides 2 colorless energies, so really convenient here. But what's interesting about Nick's deck is that he also plays a 3-3 Vespiquen line here. The first attack is interesting. It's 10 damage, draw into give 6. So I guess if you just cannot draw into anything, it's a way to kind of refresh your hand. But more importantly, we're looking at this attack, and it's called Be Revenge. So 20 base damage, and it says it does 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard. So as you can see, Night March and Vespiquen, they both kind of rely on having a ton of Pokemon in your discard. So in that regard, there is a bit of synergy there. So basically, if you have a bunch of Night Marchers in your discard, not only is the attack Night March doing a bunch of damage, but suddenly Be Revenge is also pouring out some damage. So the biggest reason I think Nick probably played this is because there are a few Pokemon that are weak to grass. In particular, Seismitoad EX, it has that Quaking Punch attack. Its item lock is going to be really devastating to this deck. So you need a way to kind of, one-shot those Seismitoads, get them out of the way, and give you a turn to play those item cards. And that's what Vespiquen does. If my math is right, if you have 7 Pokemon in the discard, that's going to be 90 damage, and that's going to be 180 damage because Seismitoad is weak to water, so it's going to be doing 2 times that amount of damage. So, as early as your first turn or second turn, you're going to be pouring out the damage here, and that's how you're going to be knocking out things like Seismitoad, Zygarde EX, things like that, etc. And then, of course, it's got free retreat, which is really good, so you don't have to play things like Floatstone in this deck. And a lot of people play Floatstone in their Night March deck or AZ just to have a way to retreat out, but it's interesting that he didn't really opt to do that because of Vespiquen, and I do like that. He did play one Escape Rope just to kind of get out of those tricky situations, but overall, I like that he went the Vespiquen route here. It's a different route, and it definitely paid off. Like I said, the Night March attack, you have to have so many Night Marchers in your discard pile. You're going to have 9 to knock out most of Pokemon EXs, because usually they have 170, 180 HP. So you might be thinking to yourself, like, how are we going to put all these Night Marchers in the discard? Do we even have enough Night Marchers? The other Night Marcher we have here is Lampent, and Lampent, we can't really attack with it because we don't play Psychic Energy, and we also don't play the basic Litwick, but as long as it's in the discard, it is going to count. And to get all of these Pokemon in the discard, whether it be Night Marchers or extra Combees, Shaymins, whatever, we're going to be playing 4 Battle Compressor. So search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them. So a lot of people think this card is just extremely broken, and it is going to be rotating out since the new format's going to be Primal Clash on. So I guess that's good news for those players, but for now, Battle Compressor is really the meat and potatoes of this deck. This is honestly why the deck works so well. And then, of course, we play 3 Shaymin, a great setup card. I hope it gets reprinted in the fall with that Premium Championship set, if we get that in the West. Otherwise, it's a really expensive card, $50, $60. So I hope the Pokemon Company can kind of do that, because it's a great setup card. And of course, it has the ability. It's called Setup. Really straightforward. Draw until you have 6 cards. And then it has Sky Return. So if you do think it's a liability, you can kind of use Sky Return, put it back in your hand, and conserve a DCE to kind of set up for next turn. So that is the Pokemon line. There's a ton of Pokemon in there. As you can see, 25 Pokemon. So about half the deck is Pokemon. So Vespiquen is going to be able to really knock out some stuff, but really you're going to be focusing with these Night Marchers. And then, of course, Unown, forgot about that. It's got that Farewell Letter ability. So basically, if it's on your bench, you can discard it and draw a card. So some obvious synergy with Vespiquen, and drawing cards is really what's going to give you the advantage here. So as far as supporters go, we're going to be playing 4 Professor Sycamore. I like this because in this kind of deck, discarding your hand, drawing 7 every turn, very, very powerful, very good. Gives you a card advantage right there. A lot of Night March players opt to play just 2 or 3 because they also play things like Trainer's Mill, but where he's playing a Vespiquen line, and a thick one at that, I think he opted to play Professor Sycamore for that reason, just added consistency. We play 1 N. I'm really glad N is back in the format. A lot of people might disagree, but I think it's a powerful card. It adds more consistency, adds a sense of disruption, so your opponent can't just have the game by holding like a 10-card hand at the end of their last turn or so. So I do like N. It's just added consistency. It lets you refresh your hand while not getting rid of all your resources like DCE or Puzzle of Times, etc. So I like that. 1 Teammates, this is probably the MVP of the deck. Your Night Marchers are going to get knocked out really, really quickly, but this is going to let you search your deck for any 2 cards if something was knocked out last turn. So say your Joltik was knocked out, and you can get the knockout if you get the DCE. Well, suddenly I can Verse Seeker, get Teammates, get the DCE, and there you go, a knockout. So really good there. We play 1 Xerosic. Again, this is good for things like Seismitoad or anything with like a Fighting Fury belt. So if your damage is kind of off, if your math is off, you're going to be able to get that knockout. So I do like that. A couple more. We have Lysander, great supporter. It's going to let you get cheap knockouts against things like Shaymin, since it's weak to Joltik's lightning type, and pretty much anything else. So, I mean, if something's on the bench, it's a liability, bring it up, knock it out, get 2 prizes. And then lastly, we have a Hex Maniac. And Hex Maniac is great because it shuts off your opponent's abilities, and your abilities, I should say. So you might not want to play it when you are going to play a Shaymin right after, but it's really powerful because things like Aegis/EX, it has that Mighty Shield ability where it cannot be touched by anything that has a special energy. So great against that, great against anything that really uses abilities like Greninja Break and things like that. So I do like that he played that. So he went for a very straightforward, consistent supporter line, a very versatile supporter line. I love that. Like I said, 2 Dimension Valley helps with the Stadium War, as they call it. You can always reuse them with Puzzle of Time, so I really like that. For DCE, you don't really need much more than that. If you play something like Mew, I guess you can play a Lightning Energy just to kind of get around Aegislash, but he really went for a straightforward approach, and I like that a lot. And then as far as our items go, let's see, we have 4 VS Seeker. Put a supporter from your discard into your hand, again, just for consistency. Once you've battle compressed something, once you've used a supporter, this card basically becomes one of any kind of supporter. So really good for Ultra Ball, pretty standard, just kind of thinning your hand out, getting rid of Pokemon, synergy with some Shaymin-EX here, with that setup ability. One Town Map, I like this because if you haven't actually seen the matches and stuff, check out Pokemon's Twitch channel. I think it's twitch.tv/Pokemon. And I think in the highlights, you can actually look at the past broadcasts and you can see like the finals match. I think there was a game where he might have prized like 2 DCE, but by playing Town Map on his first couple turns, he was able to see that and get those back after a knockout. So really, really useful on a deck like this, especially if you can prize your energy, your Night Marchers, etc. Startling Megaphone, again, stuff like Fighting Fury Belt, knock it off. Floatstone just for disruption, etc. So really good to have. For Puzzle of Time, this is also something that really makes the deck. You know, if you play one, you can rearrange the top 3 cards, so pretty good with Unown's Farewell Letter. But more importantly, if you play 2 at the same time, you can put any 2 cards from your discard into your hand. And this is really important because if you get spammed with things like Xerosic and Flare Grunt and hammers, things like that, your energy are going to be gone. Or again, if you prize some. So this is going to let you reuse those. And, you know, in general, reuse any card that you need at the moment. We play 1 Escape Rope. Again, he doesn't play any Floatstone or AZ, but this is a way to retreat out, switch to another Night Marcher, knock it out, etc. It's also good against things like Jolteon-EX, so if your opponent has another Pokemon on their bench, you can play Escape Rope to put the Jolteon on the bench, and that's effectively going to cancel out Jolteon's attack, which says it can't be touched by basics. So really good to have right there as a utility card. 1 Enhanced Hammer. This isn't something you really see in Night March, but Nick was really smart to play something like this. You know, this is what really separates the, you know, your average kind of Pokemon TCG player with the really competitive players who know how to play intelligently and effectively and win tournaments and things like that. This was a great choice by Nick. It's going to let you knock off a DCE or any kind of special energy. And I think in the finals, this really paid off because if you're attacked with something like Giratina-EX and get locked, you can pair this up with a Xerosic and essentially wipe both Double Dragon, you know, essentially 4 energy off of your opponent's board. So really, really strong there. And also probably good in like a mirror matchup to knock off their DCE. And that's pretty much it, I think. I think I've gone over all the cards there. That is Night March Vespiquen. It's not surprising that a Night March deck won US Nationals. Second place was Seismitoad Giratina. So as you can see, if it's able to kind of beat a deck that specializes in wiping energy and designed to knock out Night March, you know it's a great deck. And of course, a great deck is only as good as the player. You know, the player, Nick Robinson, very skilled player. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and jump into a game I played on Pokemon TCG Online, and just to kind of walk you through how the deck works and see it in action. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, guys, looks like we're going to go ahead and get started here. My opponent is calling the coin flip, so we're going to see if we go first or second. Usually I'd say we want to go first with this deck, although I could see why people would want to go second. I mean, if we go first, we can get set up, but if we go second, of course, we can always get that Night March rolling, hopefully getting a prize really early on. So we lost the coin flip, and our opponent's going to choose to go first. No surprise there. Let's see what we can do. So I think I'll start with Pumpkaboo just because I can go ahead and hopefully get a knockout. And I don't know what my opponent's playing, but I don't want to get donked. I know Latios decks, they're not too common, but they have been kind of a thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put down Unown. And that's going to let me use Farewell Letter if I don't get a great setup anyway. I don't want that end away or anything. So we're going to go ahead and start. And I see a Miltank. So I'm curious what this is. Is this going to be like a Greninja deck or something? But I see a Snivy go down in the grass energy. So more than likely this is going to be a Superior deck, which I like. Hopefully I can do a deck profile of that pretty soon, or a video with that deck in action, some testing there. But I think this is going to be a Superior Miltank deck, and there we go. Surveying is going to flip that coin, and it's a tails, thankfully. So normally if he flips heads there, that would paralyze me, and that's really bad, especially my first turn, because that means I won't be able to pull off a Night March attack. So he's going to draw a few more cards off the setup, and we're just kind of waiting to see what he does, and he's going to pass turn. So okay, so we have a few options here. I like that we have Ultra Ball. That means we're going to be able to discard a couple supporters early. And I think I'll get rid of Lysander and Teammates. I don't necessarily need those. I can Xerosic off the Muscle Band if I really want to, but probably not. But at this point, I'm going to Ultra Ball and get Shaymin because I need to keep drawing cards throughout this game to keep up with my opponent. Keep in mind with Forest of Giant Plants, he can go from Snivy to Superior in one turn. So a very fast deck, actually. I like that deck a lot. It's also a really inexpensive deck. But I'm going to go ahead and play Puzzle of Time just to kind of thin my deck out. I'm going to go ahead and Ultra Ball, or I'm sorry, I'm going to rearrange the top cards of my deck. And that's those 3 cards are what I will get off the Shaymin. So not that great of a setup, but it is going to get me an Ultra Ball to get another Shaymin. So it's not too uncommon to see 2-3 Shaymin played on the first turn with this deck. Now, something to note is that Nick doesn't play any Trainer's Mail, which would normally get him some extra consistency there, but he does play Unown for that, just being able to draw an extra card. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and set up and get 3 more cards, really looking for something like a Battle Compressor, a DCE, a Dimension Valley, and I do get the Stadium, so that's good. Let's see here, I'm going to go ahead and Farewell Letter, and yeah, we get another Unown, so Farewell Letter again, so we're going to keep drawing cards here. Let's see what we get off that. Okay, so we get a Sycamore. Now, I really don't want to have to discard this hand because there's a Vespiquen, there's an Escape Rope if we get stuck, there's a couple of Vespiquen if we need to attack, so I'm going to opt to play in. There isn't much of a, statistical difference, I should say, especially early game. So this is a decent hand here. I like that we have Battle Compressor. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of 2 Lampents, and I'm trying to see what else. Probably a Night Marcher because, it is going to take 7 Night Marchers to actually get a KO. Interestingly, Nick opted not to play Fighting Fury Belt, which kind of boosts the HP of his Night Marchers, but that's probably because of him playing Vespiquen. So at this point, I'm trying to see what I should discard. I can't play Hex Maniac. Joltik is probably going to be useful, just because if my Stadium is gone, I can still use Night March. So I think I'll get rid of Lampent and Hex Maniac. They're both useless right now. Puzzle of Time is great because if I can set up, I could potentially attack this turn. So I'll draw 5 cards, and that is 3 Shaymin played this one turn, which is crazy. I'm going to go ahead and play Town Map to see what's prized. And looks like one of my DCE is prized, and a Pumpkaboo, and 2 Unown for that matter. So that is not the best prizes, but I'm gonna have to pass because I couldn't get a DCE. So it looks like he might get an early lead. He attaches the Servine. I think he'll be able to attack with Miltank this turn. So I think it's called Powerful Friends. It does 10 damage and 70 more if there's a stage 2 on your side. So I think he should be able to pull off the turn 2 Superior. And for all I know, he'll get a couple more Superior out. That's just kind of how that deck works. He plays a Super Scoop Up, possibly. He's going to Level Ball first, so he might get another Snivy. He's actually going to get Spinnerack. That's kind of interesting. So I think he's trying to set up that Ariados to poison me, just in case. We're going to see a Super Scoop Up Tails, so that's a huge flip. Another one, and we see a Heads. So that's going to be big, because that's going to let him scoop up something. Looks like he chose to scoop up the Shaymin, so he's going to draw a bunch of cards here, and he really needs to get a Superior out to have a chance of getting a knockout early on. So it comes down to that. What is he going to do? He's going to Professor Sycamore, so chances are surely he can get a Superior off that. I'm sure he plays 4. So we're going to see what happens here. I'm just looking at his discard. I see an Herbal Energy, which is kind of interesting. Maybe Enhanced Hammer or Xerosic will be useful in this matchup. I'm not sure. So I think, there we go. He plays the Ultra Ball, and this is going to let him get the Superior, which he does. And the great thing is that he doesn't have to immediately attack with it. He could just use Miltank. So I haven't really seen Miltank played in here, but it is a great idea because, as early as turn 1, I can hit for 100 damage and not actually attack with Superior. So Pumpkaboo's knocked out. He will go up a prize, but that's okay. So I'm going to bring up Joltik because I can attack for 1 energy. At this point, I really need a DCE. So again, I'm going to have to either play in or something, but I do have Teammates in the discard. So that means I can immediately search out a DCE, possibly 2 of them, honestly. So I will probably do that. And like I said, that's why Teammates is so good in here. Instead of having to discard my entire hand, I can just search for Teammates right away. I'm actually going to opt to get a DCE and a Puzzle of Time here. And the reason for that is if Joltik gets knocked out, I can reuse my DCE. I can also reuse anything else in the discard. So I'm going to go ahead and Night March and get the knockout here, take a prize. I will probably get that DCE just in case my opponent plays some kind of shenanigans here. So go ahead and grab that. And we're going to see what our opponent promotes. More than likely the Superior. He's going to probably pull off some kind of attack here. So we're going to see what happens exactly. He will use Super Scoop Up. He gets Tells. And we're going to see what happens here. He's going to attach to Snivy. Both attacks can knock me out thanks to that Muscle Band. So he might even just use Coil. I've got 5 cards in my hand. He's going to opt to Sycamore. So that's an interesting choice. I think he's just trying to draw as many cards as possible and get set up before me. But the great thing is that it really doesn't take a whole lot for Night March to get set up here. I think I'm already doing like 140 damage. I'll check my discard to make sure, but I will be able to knock him out already. So that's pretty big. So I will probably check this discard in just a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I've got 7 in the discard. 20 times 7 is 140. So I'm already in really good shape. I can already get a knockout here. I could play the Puzzle of Times, but then I might get end and those would be gone. So I'm just going to go for the knockout. I mean, if he wants to end me or something, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and get a Pumpkaboo because Nick's list doesn't play anything like Buddy Buddy or Super Odd. So I'm going to need as many Night Marchers as I can to keep attacking and keep up this stream of, getting cheap knockouts here. So he's going to bring up the Snivy. He's going to go ahead and evolve with Servine, and he's going to flip for Paralysis here. He gets a huge heads, but, if he does attack me, it's already going to knock me out. So I don't even know how effective Servine is in this kind of matchup. I guess it's okay if you can't get set up and you need some time. But Coil is going to go ahead and knock me out. He goes down to 3 prizes, it looks like. So I will bring up Joltik since I don't have a Vespiquen in my hand. And frankly, I'm not even sure if Vespiquen can get a knockout here. Because it looks like I've got 9. Okay, so it looks like I've got 13 in the discard, I think, or 10. So I don't even think Vespiquen could get a knockout, but I'm going to double puzzle, and I'm just going to go ahead and get 2 more DCE back. I think that's probably the safest play. It's going to let me attack a few more times. So let's go ahead and attack with Joltik. I think he's doing 160 now. I'm not sure. Yeah, 160. So at this point, what does our opponent do? He's down some Superiors, but it looks like he already conceded. He doesn't, I don't know if a couple of his Snivies are prized or he just realized he couldn't get set up against a deck like this that's just taking constant knockouts. But as you can see, it wasn't the most eventful game here, but it kind of goes to show you how Night March can get set up so quickly. A simple battle compressor, a couple puzzle at a time here and there at Teammates, and suddenly Night March is going toe-to-toe with even these, powerful Pokemon EXs, doing a whopping 160 damage for an energy, possibly more if we would have battle compressed some more. But guys, that is going to be Night March Vespiquen, a very great deck, a deck that wasn't really under the radar so much, but Vespiquen was an interesting way to play it. So kudos to Nick Robinson. Again, I got this list from Pokemon.com. After the tournaments, they normally make this public knowledge, so I was able to get this list that way. If you wanted to check out more of the top 8 lists, check out Pokemon.com because they have that up already, so you can see what else performed pretty well. You can also see what did well in other countries, so like the UK and France, etc. So yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up, guys. Be sure to like us, subscribe, check out our facebook.com page, /TopDeckNation. Check out our website. We have free articles. We're a nonprofit website. Feel free to donate. Not necessary, but that would definitely help us out. And yeah, this has been Zach with Top Deck Nation, and I will catch you guys in the next video.